Welcome back to Erik Penser Bank. For our next presentation, we are joined by Henrik Bunge, CEO at Björn Borg. Welcome, Henrik.
Thank you, Hjalmar. Good to be back.
And I hand the word over immediately.
Fantastic. So let's fire away. I heard Torsten was here just before me. That's going to be hard to beat. They're doing something fantastic, of course. Not only is he a great leader, but I think their performance, has been also, going through the roof. So congratulations, and we intend to do the same, actually. But let's first do a bit of a recap in terms of where we're heading. So at least we believe that you need to have a strong, long-term idea on where you would want to take the brand. And for us, this really, says it all. Train to live. We believe that there's a lot of stuff that the world don't need more of. We don't need more people running marathons as 221 or playing world champion football games. But what we do need, we believe, is a brand that inspires normal people like you and me, that we could become something more than what we are today. And that training is really the key enabler of unleashing your own potential. I know it sounds a bit idealistic, but we really believe in that. If you just want to give yourself one gift today, then give yourself a training hour. And it doesn't need to be something super hard, but just, moving, because that will generate so much stuff for you that will make you just better every day. So that's really what this journey is all about, and the reason why we decided a fairly long time ago to transition the brand from being back then only colorful, really fantastic underwear into something more. And you need, of course, to have a clearly defined goal. So simply saying that train to live is just not going to do it. So what we want to do is to build a sports brand with a fashion edge. And together with that, of course, we need to identify how do we measure our success. And here we do it perhaps a bit differently. Of course, the number one for us is to enable the brand to continue to grow stronger. Because again, that's one of the few things that makes us unique, Björn Borg. It's ours. Ours to fuel with value, to invite people to join, and no one else can do that. And that's unique. And that's why we're constantly, every week, asking consumers in all of our markets how they perceive our products, our communication, everything that we're doing, to make sure that the stuff that we're doing is really resonating with them. The one that we want to, touch out there. The one that we want to invite into this journey, into this belief that you can indeed be a better version of yourself. And we measure that with the KPI that we call a sports brand that suits me. And it's very, very simple, because I'm sure you will agree, if there's one thing that will generate turnover, it is when you say, well, that's a brand that suits me. And that's what we want people to say when we ask them, hey, what do you think about Björn Borg? That's a brand that suits me. That will generate turnover and profit and growth. The second one is actually the team. So if the brand is something that is unique for us, the second thing that is completely unique is us. Everyone that is working for Björn Borg right now, because we cannot be anywhere else. And those two things are really the only thing that sets us apart for everyone else. The team and the brand. Everyone else is also having computers, offices, products, all kinds of stuff. But the brand and the team, that is unique. And of course, with the team, we need to make sure that we're doing things that will also enable us every day to become better, to perform better, to get more out of the few hours we have. And we measure that every year in team engagement. So asking everyone, how engaged are you? The third KPI is profit, because we want to make profit, we want to take control of our own destiny, if you will, and we want to make sure that we really are generating value. And the last one is sales. But all those four KPIs are very, very important, and that's how we're measuring our progress. The best way to predict the weather tomorrow is to look outside the window today and see how the weather is right now. And most likely you will be right. But you never know, of course. It's hard to predict the future, and you never really know where the world will take you, and especially in these times when things go so quick. But nevertheless, I think trying to second guess what we will do tomorrow, you need to have a bit of a glimpse into what we did yesterday. Because most likely, those things will repeat themselves, and of course, our ambition is to make them even better. So let me take you on a bit of a journey from our business plan that we just closed 2022. So at Björn Borg, we work with 4-year plans. We perhaps will lower it to even 3 in the next session because the world is spinning so quick, but we truly believe in having long-term plans with long-term goals and long-term aspirations. And then, of course, constantly working towards those goals. And 2019 and 2022, that was our business plan that we just now closed. So how did we do? And of course, first, again, I've showed this picture a couple of times, but as I said, the brand is one thing that makes us unique. And the strength of the brand, that's what people are willing to pay for our products. And one sign that the brand is getting stronger and stronger is, of course, when individuals out there that get everything they want for free still decides to come into our .com site and buy products full price. It can't get better than that. And you can measure brand evolution and brand strength in a number of different ways. But if individuals that can get whatever they want decides to buy products full price from us, that really tells a strong story that we're doing something really, really right. And not only does it go for underwear, but actually also for apparel. And for those that don't recognize, this guy is playing football. And then, of course, all this need to lead into shareholder value. So looking at 2019 to 2022, you see the graph here. So the green one is Björn Borg. So since we launched the business plan in 19, closing then that 1st of January 2023, we're up 110% versus then OMX plus small cap, which is then up 88 and 72. So things seems to be working really well from a shareholder perspective as well. We are increasing, the value of the share. And then, of course, we need to remind ourselves that, this has been, a very rocky ride. So, of course, you can imagine when I sat there at the end of 2018 and really planned the next session of this brand, well, I didn't really imagine, a global pandemic hitting me. And, of course, even worse, I couldn't even think about what's just now happening in Ukraine. And, of course, all those things, happened during this business plan. And for us, I think the baddest impact has actually been how the currency has been developing. So as you know, we've been talking about that a number of times. We buy almost everything, or 50-55% in US dollar, and we have almost no revenue in US dollars. So of course, that means that that's going to massively impact our ability to make profit. But even then with a currency that went from 9.30 US to SEK to 10.50, we're managing to improve all of our KPIs. And I think that's a sign that the team is really agile and flexible and, have a way of finding new routes to continue to create, profitability even when the world is working against us. So on the left, we have our EBIT development. So we have a CAGR development of 12.7%. So an ongoing increase of our EBIT. Looking at sales, we're growing just shy of 3%. So that's a bit slow, but never again, we went through, a number of tough years. So we went from 765 to 835. 835, of course, being a record year. So never before have we sold more products. And then I just added the net debt, which I think is important to know, and sometimes perhaps not everyone is looking at. So we came into 2019 with a net debt of 128. We are starting 2023 with a net debt of 14. So went through this crisis and reduced our net debt with 114 million. So of course, looking at the company right now, it's in a very, very healthy position. We're set up to really, starting to roll out things that we really truly believe in. Looking at the brand then, not only is Messi buying our underwear, there's a lot of other stuff as well that is being sold. And we can see that when we ask consumers, again, in all of the markets every week, that the purchase intent for underwear is still very, very high. And that we are still market leader in underwear in all of our mature markets, which is then, Holland and then the Nordic markets. So we managed to maintain our number one position, despite, of course, moving the brand into a much bigger arena and becoming a sports brand. Now looking at apparel, so that's the main category that we want to focus on to move the brand, to transition the brand into the sports brand arena. We're also increasing purchase intent. So we can see that every year we're doing things that is compelling, that includes, consumers, so they want to belong to us, they want to be a part of this journey. So of course, that's something that we're super, super happy of. Looking at team engagement, so again, every year, anonymously, we ask everyone internally, hundreds of different questions around almost anything. And the end result of that is that we're continuing to improve on really, really high level. So that's super, super important. You know, we really need to have a team that is dedicated, that is really, really engaged to handle whatever's being thrown at us. And the main reason for that is really that we have perhaps a slightly different approach to things, and we call it the Björn Borg way. And here, of course, you know, you might not see it because it's a bit shady, but it's the team in the background. And of course, all these things that you've seen is the result of a fantastic team. We usually talk about Bea in our meetings, and that's a fantastic girl, but she's really, you know, the symbol of everyone working with Björn Borg right now, and that everyone really are living their brand. You know, they really believe in training that will enable them to become better, but also that we need to find new routes no matter what is happening around us. So I think that solution-oriented, you know, attitude is really working for us, and of course will help us also going into the future. But the Björn Borg way is really a very simple dashboard allowing us to become better. And we believe that in order to become better, that doesn't only go with inspiring you to become better, but also, of course, to inspiring ourselves to become better, to get more out of the hours we have. We believe you need to be in a flow. And it might sound, again, a bit fluffish, but it's not actually. You want to have a very strong balance between the resources that you have and all the stuff you want to get going. And what you need to do, we believe, to create that balance is a number of different things. And all of them we have sort of conceptualized and that we're using them as a part of our day-to-day work, everyone, including myself. And the first one is really that we believe in clear targets and clear follow-up, including myself. We know that if you really want to accomplish something, writing down what that is, being accountable for it, telling your friend that this is what you want to do, and then asking your friend to check in on you. That's going to make you deliver more. So that we do. And then, of course, we also believe that there's a time for reflect, you know, to review what did you do last week? What are your intentions for the coming week? Making sure that you take control over what is really important, what might be urgent but perhaps less important, and that you allocate your time towards those things that will take you to where you would want to go. And then, of course, we also believe in driving engagement and satisfaction is a lot about feeling that you are being developed. And you know that yourself, you know, when you're learning something new, that's just a fantastic feeling. And we want to create that, you know, internally as well as externally. So we're working with, you know, both, you know, at the job trainings. So meaning that we have a great guy or girl in Excel and they're training the others in Excel, but also in terms of leadership training. On top of that, of course, learning how to deal and handle with stress, with training, with nutrition, with sleep. You know, giving every individual a toolbox so they then can use that when they feel that, hey, I now need to become even better because things are really, really tough right now. So we're constantly trying to involve the organization, and we call it never stop learning. And then, of course, last, we continue to work with sports hour every Friday where everyone is really joining 11 to 12. We'll also do physical tests, not for me to check how quick they run, but again, you know, if you want to train every week, it's good to have a goal that will then give you a bit of inspiration. Those days when you're feeling, I'm not going to train today, but hey, I need to because that's going to make me better. And I think those are the days you really need to do the training. And then, of course, last, we have a very simple way of working. We call it Framework for Performance. And it's just built on this idea that no matter whether you're an individual, department, you know, a football team, or a company like Björn Borg, you need to have a very clear long-term goal that people buy into. And when you have that, you need to have the courage to look yourself in the mirror, to constantly evaluate where you are. And then, of course, use the same KPI. So if you want to run a half marathon, you know, in a certain time, then you need to look at how quick you run the half marathon. You know, if you want to sell more, you need to measure sales. If you want to grow the brand, you need to measure brand. So really make sure that those 2 points are connected with the same measurements. And of course, the more ambitious you are, the steeper the curve is, you know, the more you need to get going. And for us, we just call it, what are the whats? You need to do a lot of stuff. You know, what is your 3 most important activities that will take you to where you want to go? As an individual, as a company, you know, as a department. And then really focusing on those and take out all other distractions. And then we also work with how. And here we really tie those into our brand values. So for me, the difference between what you do and how you are is, well, simply asking you, describe your best friend. And then you probably say loyal or fun or caring. That's how they are. It's, of course, connected to what they do. So if they're loyal, well, perhaps they're always answering when you're calling, or perhaps they're always on time. So activities, what you do and how you are, it's deeply in sync. But we believe that the reason why consumers really are starting to love us even more, and also all, including the team, is really how we are, because that's also how you make people feel. And last, of course, super, super important, you need to know why you're doing the things. And for us, our mission is to inspire you that you can be more, through our belief that sports will make your mind, your soul, and your body something more than what you are today, so that you can do whatever you want. That's really our strong belief. And we believe it's resonating really, really well with what people are looking for as well. So, of course, with that said, tomorrow will bring different challenges. But looking back, at least, will give you an idea on our ambition plans for the future. And of course, we want to do even more. We have 3 really, really clear focuses, looking ahead, of which we all will create a strong brand and a strong, working environment that will enable people to be their best version of themselves. And that then will lead into higher sales and more profit. And of course, that in turn then will create shareholder value, which of course we're ultimately here to do. So the first one then, in the future, we will continue to build the best workplace in the universe. We do that with a belief that you can be whoever you want to be. And there's a few things that if you just add them into your life, you will simply unleash your potential. And having someone challenging you, asking you, reminding you, will enable you to stick on that course even those days when you want to simply quit. Secondly, of course, it's all about continuing to drive sports apparel. Maintaining underwear, but really driving and fueling growth in sports apparel. And I'm sure you've seen it already. If you visit, any of the very many paddle halls that we currently are having, or one of the gyms, you will see one of our signature products on that court for sure, and that's our Borg tee in sustainable, recyclable polyester with a Borg logo on the left and right arm. Is simply an iconic product that you will see everywhere. And of course, we want to do even more of that, adding more iconic products that will be visible then in all the different training facilities that you're visiting. And then, of course, last, yes, online business, online marketing really went through the roof during the COVID, and it's slowing down a bit, in the aftermath, but we still believe in massive, massive potential for online retailing, online marketing, and we believe that as a brand, we'll continue to invest and focus and make the brand even more digital. Everything from reading data from consumers to create our collection, to partners in terms of e-tailers, and also, of course, how we will communicate the brand. So that's really, the 3 focus for us as a brand, looking forward now when we're creating our next business plan that will then take us until 2027. And this is the start of something even better than the last business plan. So with that said, there's no one here listening to me. I'm sure there might be some questions, who knows? If not, I'm sure Hjalmar has geared up with a bunch, but I'm here, of course, to answer all of them if I can. So Hjalmar or anyone else, fire away.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And first, I was thinking we could start where you rounded off in sports apparel, because, like you mentioned, you had great success within the paddle segment. Have you identified any other segments or sub-segments of the sports apparel that you particularly target for growth?
I think absolutely. So what we try to avoid actually is to be too category specific. However, of course, if you look at paddle tennis, we did a collection, and we've done so, throughout the years, because it simply resonates really well with the heritage of, how this brand was born. And we really believe in the authenticity of bringing that back. So, of course, as you all know, we had the best athlete, arguably in the world with Björn Borg. So that's why we did paddle and tennis. And of course, it's working really well thanks to this, fantastic booming paddle trend. But what we see, though, is that most of the paddle players, they're buying, other products and then use for paddle. So our approach is really to create a not too, sports-specific sports apparel collection, but rather one that you could then use for whatever you want to use it for. Because again, the one that we want to target here is not the runner that is doing, 4, 5, 6 times a week, that is trying to do the half marathon in 1:25 or the full marathon below 3 hours or 2:52, whatever else it is. There are other brands that are catering for your needs. The one that we want to reach out to are you that want to train because you think it's fun. And on a Monday, you might go play paddle. On a Tuesday, you might go run with your friends. And on a Wednesday, you simply decide to skip the training. And on a Thursday, you do something else. And we believe that those are the ones that we want to inspire. Do a bit more of that, because that will enable you to be so much, much better, actually. So we try to create a sports apparel collection that will facilitate for whatever you want to do and not being too category specific. Nevertheless, with that said, of course, we still then have a very small paddle collection that you could use for whatever you want. And also we have a few specific running products, because if you want to sell to a runner, there's a few things you just need to think about. But it's a very sort of generic approach, since we want to reach out to a very broad audience.
Thank you. And maybe could you just briefly elaborate on the competitive landscape? Of course, in sports apparel, a lot of competitors, but in terms of maybe your price level and your brand positioning, which are the main competitors?
Well, there's no shortage of competitors, of course, no matter where you're looking. And of course, you could argue that anyone that is selling something is a competitor, because of course we want a part of that wallet as well. And there's a number of really, really fast-growing and super agile and really, really fantastic Swedish brand that is sort of popping up, that started out small but is now growing. I think all of them is doing a fantastic job. So I think for me, I wouldn't really look at them as competitors. I think we set out to do something different. We want more people to train. Ideally, you buy stuff from us. Perhaps you'll buy from someone else. But if we really can be that brand that will be your best friend in those dark moments when you don't want to train, then we believe that's going to pay off over the years. So it's more about really communicating this idea that train to live, work out to become something better or stronger. That doesn't necessarily have to do with training. And then we want to create product that will really facilitate that. So we are, targeting consumers that are quite broad. There's a high sustainability focus. It's a premium to mid-price product, so everybody can sort of afford it. So that's really the approach. So with that said, there's just hundreds of competitors, so there's no point almost listing them. But that's not really the way we see it. And on top of that, of course, the apparel business, for us is still, fairly small. So there's massive potential, just to gain in that marketplace. And also we believe that this training trend, well-being, taking care of yourself, even though it's tough right now, admittedly, with everything that is happening, people will still spend time and money on themselves. I think especially when times are a bit tough.
Thank you. And mentioning sort of challenging times or a more challenging environment, we had companies presenting here previously who spoke about how they navigate through this sort of new environment that we've seen. Some mention example that you target customers with a more spontaneous purchase rather than a planned purchase. And of course, this is also affecting marketing strategy. Could you just briefly elaborate on how do you navigate in a more challenging environment to drive sales?
Absolutely, and I think one thing that we know already that most likely will continue to happen is, of course, low price retail, low price products is probably gonna be the winner. So of course, one easy way would of course be to do cheaper products and be in those environments. That's gonna drive a lot of revenue. We don't believe that's gonna be the right way for us. So I think for us, it's more a time where you need to continue to focus on what you've focused on, be even more precise, continue to talk about what the brand really will give you in terms of added value, being that inspirational friend towards you. We believe that's going to be the key enabler also to continue to drive growth in the future. Even though, of course, it's crystal clear that currently, consumers almost across all markets in Europe will have, less money to spend than what they had a year ago and 2 years ago. And of course, that's going to have a massive impact on consumption. That's very, very clear. But being, still a fairly small brand, we still believe that there's an opportunity to continue to grow, but not by doing, so much differently, but actually continue on this route that we're already in.
Thank you. And I was thinking on the online growth. Of course, you had strong growth for quite some time now, but you also added the marketplaces. Could you just elaborate a bit on the marketplaces, like the development, and what do you see there in the future?
Well, I think the online arena, so the big e-tailers. When we look at our performance, it's definitely picking up again. So at the beginning of last year and also in the middle of last year, we saw that they were sitting on fairly big stock, and there was a lot of products, an excess of inventories in Europe, and that of course impacted how they bought from us, but also of course clearance prices and off-price deals. So that was a bit of a unhealthy situation, and we see though that the inventories are going down. They're much more cautious in terms of which brands they're picking up. They're much better at measuring what is really selling out. And I think we are really in a fortunate position. So we see that there's still a really, really strong, pull from consumers to buy our products. So we're confident we can continue to grow. In terms of marketplaces, we believe that as a brand, it's super important that you take sort of full control over those marketplaces, and that you don't allow anyone and everyone to sell your products on those places, because then it will easily turn into just being a price battle. Someone trying to cut you short. So our approach really in terms of marketplaces is to continue to focus on bol.com, which is the leading one in Netherlands, and to focus on Amazon US, but actually not to do any business at all with Amazon Europe. We simply believe there's other e-tailers that better would capture the end consumers and that are fitting the way we would want to build the brand going forward.
Thank you. And then on terms of geographical markets, you had a good development in the Netherlands in Q4. Could you elaborate a bit on particular drivers and what was driving the development there?
I think our two biggest markets is Sweden and Netherlands. So of course those are really, really important, and there's a high focus to drive growth on those markets. What we have identified as a growth opportunity is Germany. And so of course partly due to there's a number of really, really strong pan-European e-tailers. So About You, Tennis Point, Zalando of course. And of course we have an office in Berlin, really working on the German markets. That's really one of the markets where we're really, really small, but of course there's massive potential. And then when it comes to the more mature markets, so Netherlands and Sweden, it's really about maintaining our underwear position, so still being number one, and then of course continuing to drive growth with sports apparel. And that's really what we've seen last year. We had very, very strong sports apparel growth numbers in all of our channels. And of course, that's really fueling our growth, and the reason why we then broke a sales record during 2022. So continued focus in the mature markets, digging even deeper, and then adding Germany and focus even more. The biggest opportunity, of course, for us is to be a bit bigger in a big market. Both Netherlands and Sweden are fairly small markets.
Yeah. All right, that's great. Thank you so much for coming here, and thanks for a great presentation.
Brilliant, thank you so much, and remember to get a workout today, guys. And take care, huh? Thanks for listening.